How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Sick Eric Tech. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy A54 and the Samsung Galaxy S23, and we're going to be comparing the specs on both these guys on whether or not you should spend less money and just get the Galaxy A54, or if you should go all out and get the more expensive Galaxy S23. So we're going to be going on over the specs and taking a look at some pictures taken side by side on both of these devices and the overall hardware and performance of these two devices. Before we get started, go ahead and consider subscribing and clicking that bell icon while you're at it. And thank you guys for joining me here today. So let's get started on both of these devices. Definitely sharing the same design language with the two. Now that Samsung is becoming more coherent with their design. As you can see, very similar in the design. Of course, the differences are very minute. The camera bumps are a little bit larger. They stick out a little bit on the Galaxy A54. And as you can see, still with that same camera design on both of these. So as far as size goes, the Galaxy A54 definitely a little bit bigger, coming in about 6.23 inches tall from top to bottom, 3.2 inches wide, and 0.32 inches thin. So a little bit larger than the normal Galaxy S23. Going on over the Galaxy S23, definitely smaller at 5.76 inches from top to bottom, and 2.79 inches wide and 0.30 inches thin. So as you can see, a lot smaller device on the Galaxy S23, and I definitely prefer the size over here on the A54 just because it feels a little bit larger. But as far as build quality goes, definitely prefer the build quality on the Galaxy S23, covered in Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 with your armor aluminum frame. While over here on the A54, you do have a glass back and glass front, Gorilla Glass 5, so that's awesome. But you do get a polycarbonate frame, so it doesn't feel as premium and as cold in your hand as the Galaxy S23 would. As far as the IP rating, the A54 does have an IP67, while over here on the Galaxy it's IP68, so a little bit more protective over here on the Galaxy S23. But still, always good news. Definitely upgrades on both of these. They both have in-display fingerprint sensors. Of course, the A54 is going to be your optical, while the Galaxy G3 is going to be a ultrasonic, and it's definitely a lot faster than the optical. I found myself not holding my finger down long enough on the A54, so it does not really pick up. As you can see, if you just tap it, it will unlock, but the S23 definitely a lot faster with that ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, and it just overall feels a lot better. The Galaxy S23 weighs at about 5.93 ounces, while over here on the A54 it weighs at about 7.13 ounces. So very nice similar design. The only thing I don't like about the A54 is it has that little shiny camera ring around the front facing camera. I don't know why they do that. It's like Samsung tries to differentiate their mid-range phones from their high-end phones just by looking at them at the front. But as you can see, you do get that little ring around the front facing camera, and that is kind of annoying. You don't get that on their premium devices like the S23. Going on over to displays, the Galaxy S23 comes with a dynamic AMOLED display, 120 Hz HDR10 plus, 1750 nits peak brightness, 6.1 inch of greatness, 1080p by 2340, and like I said earlier, covered in Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2, and you do have a PPI of 425. Go on over to the A54, Super AMOLED, 120 Hz as well, HDR10 plus. It only goes up to about 1000 nits, 6.4 inches of goodness, 1080p by 2340, and you get 403 pixels per inch and covered Corning Gorilla Glass 5. Both of these do have your customizable always on display, so that's really nice. You get a lot of info on there. So kudos. Software pretty much the same. They're both running Android 13 with One UI 5.1. So that's awesome news. And as far as chipsets go, the Galaxy S23 comes with Android 13, One UI 5.1, you get the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 128 all the way up to 512 gigabytes of internal storage. Adreno 740 for your GPU. Going on over to the A54, you get Android 13, One UI 5.1 as well. You get the Exynos 1380 chipset with the Mali G68 MP5 GPU. This can go all the way up to 6 to 8 gigs of RAM. This is the 6 gigabyte 128. You do get micro SD card support on the A54, while on the S23 you do not. You get UFS 4.1 on the Galaxy S23. So really nice when it comes down to performance. I'm definitely going to give that win to the Galaxy S23. Performance on here has been absolutely stellar compared to the A54. Of course, we all know the A54 is more of a mid-range device, so you're not going to get as high performance. There are definitely some jankiness on here when you're scrolling. Things do not tend to scroll as easier on here when you're scrolling through menus and things like that. It's definitely not as smooth as the Galaxy S23 when it comes down to processing, but it's still a very capable processor. I was able to edit a video on here and it did it just fine with no issues. It is a little bit laggy sometimes, but I mean, it's a mid-range smartphone. You're gonna expect that mid-range smartphone, mid-range chipset. It's definitely not going to be as fast and powerful as the regular Galaxy S23 is. Now going on over to the cameras of these devices, really nice. I was definitely surprised with the Galaxy A54 when it came down to cameras. You get a 50 megapixel main sensor, you get a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and then you get a 5 megapixel macro sensor. So really nice when it comes down to that. 32 megapixel front facing camera. You can record all the way up to 4K 30 frames per second on the front and on the back. Going on over to the Galaxy S23, you get a 50 megapixel main sensor, 10 megapixel telephoto, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. Your front facing camera is going to be a 12 megapixel camera. You can record all the way up to 8K on here, so that's fantastic. You could also do 4K 3060 front facing camera. You could do 4K all the way up to 60 frames per second, so that's really good. But when it comes down to picture taking, I'm gonna tell you guys that the A54 definitely came through a lot more than I expected it to be. It's a fantastic camera when it comes down to photos. Video is another department. Stabilization on the A54 is not the greatest. It's definitely very jittery and very shaky when you're doing video and you're just walking, while the Galaxy S23 has way better stabilization. But as far as photos goes, they go blow to blow. You're probably going to be seeing some photos in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and play you a little reel of some photos and video taken on both of these, but it's very close, guys. You tell me which one looks better. Let's go. So guys, which one do you think did the best job as far as taking photos and video? I'm gonna have to give that win to the Galaxy S23, but in video and in photos, I think they both came really close. So comment down below which one you thought looked better. So they both do have stereo speakers tuned by AKG. I think the speakers on the Galaxy S23 definitely sound a lot better than the A54 does. Even though it's a larger device, you should be able to get more sound out of it. It's just the speakers aren't the best over here on the A54. So let's go ahead and play some tracks that way you could get an idea of how each one of these devices sound. Alright guys, so what you think of the audio quality on both of these? Like I said, I think the win goes to the Galaxy S23 when it comes down to audio. Both of these do offer Dolby Atmos, so that's fantastic. You're able to tweak things, and you also do get your equalizing modes and things like that. So audio on both of them is really good. You get Bluetooth 5.3 on both of them, so no issues with Bluetooth connectivity, and everything sounds really good. No headphone jacks on either one of these, so that is definitely a bummer, but that is the norm these days. Everything is wireless. Now going on over to the batteries. So the Galaxy S23 comes with a 3900 milliamp hour battery, 25 watt wire charging, 15 watt wireless charging, and 4.5 watt reverse wireless charging, which you're able to charge a pair of earbuds on the back or your Galaxy Watch. So that's fantastic news. While going on to the A54, you get a 5000 milliamp hour battery with 25 watt wire charging, no wireless charging, and no reverse wireless charging on the Galaxy A54. Now, as far as battery life goes, definitely going to give that to the A54 just because of that lower chipset, less RAM, 5000 milliamp hour battery. This is definitely a 2-day phone, maybe even longer than that depending on your usage, but the Galaxy S23 is a huge improvement from last year's S22. You can definitely get a day and a half out of this device, maybe stretch it on over to 2 with light usage, but it's a huge improvement from last year. But compared to the Galaxy A54, this device definitely is a 2-day phone, and maybe some. The battery life is amazing. You get a larger battery, 5000 compared to 3900. So you're going to get more better battery life on the A54 compared to the Galaxy S23. But like I said, the Galaxy S23 is no slouch. You're still getting excellent battery life over here. So don't get me wrong, it's still great, but definitely better over here on the A54. Now, as far as the colors that were available for these, the A54 came in lime, graphite, violet, and white. This is the awesome graphite color. So it's definitely more of a gray, blackish color, more of a darker gray depending on lighting. Over here on the Galaxy S23, it came in phantom black, cream, green, lavender, graphite, and lime. This is the cream color, and they both look really good. So taking a look at the hardware really quick, definitely similarities when it comes down to the cameras, although the camera bumps protrude more on the A54, definitely not as streamlined as the S23. Button placement pretty much identical. When it comes down to that, you do get a plastic frame on the A54 compared to your metal frame on the S23. You get your Samsung logo right there at the bottom as well. Taking a look at the bottom, speaker, microphone, USB, and another microphone. You get your SIM tray over here on the bottom of the S23. Going on over to this side, you get nothing. No antenna lines on the A54 because of that plastic frame. You do get them on the S23. Going on over to the top, you get another microphone on the S23. The A54, you get your SIM and micro SD card tray along with a microphone. And as far as similarities go, that's pretty much where it ends. You do get bigger bezels on the A54 compared to the S23, so that is another downfall. The bezels are really chunky on the A54. Definitely feels a little older and dated compared to the smaller bezels on the S23, but if that's not a problem for you and it's not really a deal breaker, I don't think that will bother you. But very nice devices, definitely a nice comparison comparing the mid-range to the flagship. But hopefully this video helped you decide whether or not you want to spend the extra cash and get an S23 or save some money and get an A54. And I think for me, the average consumer should probably choose the A54 because it still has fantastic cameras, better battery life. The build quality isn't there. I would have preferred a matte finish on this glass, but I'm just happy that we got glass to begin with compared to all the other A series phones that come with plastic. And as far as performance goes, if you're not the kind of person who cares about performance, then definitely go for the A54. If you're a power user, go for the S23. So hopefully you guys found this video useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down. That's quite alright. And I will see you guys next time here on Sick Eric Tech. Peace.